Hello everybody, this is Danny back from Deepsouth Homestead on Porch Time today. And guys, you're not going to believe this. This is the second time I've shot this. The first time I did a video, and we're probably going to use that video for a Porch Time if we can retrieve it off the computer. Our new computer just crashed. I mean, craziest thing in the world. We can get to everything on the computer. Can't get to Porch Time. It's the devil, you know. How the devil's been fighting with that one so bad because it was really a pretty good one. So I'm having to reshoot another one. I'm actually doing it on a phone. We actually had to go buy a new computer today. As y'all know, on one of our live streams the other night, we had to use a phone because the computer was messing up. Well, I finally was able to figure that out. Got it kind of straightened up. Somebody had hacked into it, to be honest with you. And then yesterday, after I shot Porch Time, it just went wacko. Wanda uploaded it into the computer and was working with it. Boom, computer just went crazy. I have worked with it now for about a day and a half. No results. So, we bought a new computer. Haven't got it set up yet. So, I'm actually doing another one today on the phone. And sitting here right ahead of a massive system fixing to come through here. They're saying we're going to get the worst of it again. But it's coming all the way down. Guys, let me just say this. We got beautiful weather today. The weather today is perfect. I mean, it's probably the best weather that you could ever imagine outside. It's in the mid-70s. Woke up this morning, it was in the 50s. Just perfect weather, light breeze. The only thing that messed today up was the county mapping department showed up at my house. They actually had the courtesy this time to come to my house and ask me, can we go over and measure the cabin? Because if y'all remember my videos from the past, I threw them off of here. So this time they actually came to the house. I had no problem. We went over, done the measuring and everything. We talked. We actually had a pretty good conversation with those young guys. I told them, I said, yeah, we talked about the prices of things and how ridiculous it's getting and all that kind of stuff. And then I looked at them, I said, the good thing about this is I'm old and that's a good thing. You're young, it's not a good thing. I said, by 2025, if the world has its way, you will own nothing and you'll be happy that you own nothing. And they kind of like had a look on their face, but other than that, the weather's really nice. Light breeze. I've been slicing bacon today, guys. I got more in the refrigerator curing to do again next weekend. So hopefully these two pigs has provided us with an ample supply of bacon. But guys, there's so much going on. This severe weather that's coming in. I challenge you. I actually would challenge you to go back and look at my past videos. 2 to 3 years ago, I began talking about the grand solar minimum. Well, I have been railed. I have been bombarded about everything in the world. Oh, this is just a conspiracy theorist. Go back and look at what I told you was going to take place. And I think you'll come to the conclusion of what I told you was it's going to be about extremes. Everything is going to be extreme. When it's raining, it's going to be flooding. When there's going to be windy, it's going to be screaming winds. When it's going to be hot, it's going to be screaming hot. When it's cold, it's going to be so cold. And the weather patterns I told you will be unheard of. And then here about a year ago, maybe not quite a year ago, I talked to some guys that has oil fields, and they told me that the oil companies are firing off natural gas wells to heat up the atmosphere in Texas because they put in these big wind solar farms everywhere. They need the wind down there to power all this stuff, so they're trying to divert the jet stream down. And the weather in Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, North Mississippi, Tennessee, West Tennessee, and Western Kentucky is going to be unreal because of it. I said, well, aren't y'all concerned about what it's going to do to people and all that? And they said, nope. If we can pull that jet stream down here and get the air, to the wind up high enough to be able to keep those windmills running, that's what we want. And if y'all remember, I told you that it's probably close to almost a year ago now. And every time that there's severe weather, look at where it's going. This gentleman told me what I believe to be accurate because of what I'm seeing. Now, we are in a grand solar minimum. I don't care what anybody says. I'm friends with a world-renowned scientist over across the, they call it across the pond, over in other countries over there. And he has actually sent me tons of literature about this. And I've been studying up on it. I've been reading on it and stuff. And I'm amazed at, this is all historical. This stuff has all happened in history before. He goes back into empires and dynasties and things like this that happened, you know, hundreds of years ago. Because this like happens every 400 years. And you go back and start looking at the history of what happened during those 400 years and what was the weather doing then? What was going on at that time? And I think you'll see, if you do the historical studies, you'll see the same exact things that we're facing now. And you look at what it done to the civilizations then, it's probably going to do it again now, except on a lot worse scale, because there's a lot more people. People do not know how to survive anymore. They go to the grocery stores to buy all their groceries, and they live on a municipal water system. All the don'ts in life, everybody's doing. So therefore, the casualties this time will be massive, you know. Well, I got word just this past week. Now, I don't know how much truth there are to this one. I'm just gritting my teeth on this one because I'm hoping that this isn't true. I know it's going to happen at some point. I'm just hoping it's not this close. But I got word this week that, or this past week, should I say, that that the dollar is probably going to crash here real soon. And when it does, it'll be worth nothing. Literally nothing. All the 401ks will be gone. I mean, literally everybody's savings. If you have money in the bank, it's just gone. You know, kind of like it was in the Great Depression, just multiplied times 10 is what I've been told. And Wanda and I have talked about this, and we're like, wow, you know, what do we do? I mean, with our savings, I mean, what do we do with all this stuff? I mean, and I told her, I said, you know, you can't go wrong with assets. If things are in assets, at least you can lay your hands on them. They're tangible. Money in the bank, you can't really get your hands on it because really, to be honest with you, it's just numbers on a ledger right now. And that's exactly what crypto is. But it's all leading toward that one world system that we're going to be tied into. And this one world system, as a matter of fact, I listened to a thing was sent to me the other day. I don't, very often I don't listen to a lot of things that's sent to me. Wanda goes through and scrutinizes them. She listens to some of them, and she'll say, this is one I think that you might want to listen to, because she knows my time is just very limited. I'm trying to get as much stuff around here built as I can and work the gardens, you know, everything, construction work done, all this kind of stuff. And I got a bad knee now, so I'm very limited as the amount of time I can actually do something. And she'll tell me this one here I think is warrants you're listening to. Well, actually I listened to one this past week about a world forum, a committee that was sitting around, and I listened to what they were talking about. And these people actually believe that what they're doing is going to be for the betterment of mankind. And it literally has to do with taking everything we own away from us. They claim that that would be better for us. And that would help and to bring the carbon emissions down to literally little to nothing. If we could just stop everybody from doing this and we could do that, we could get everything over to electric. And I'm sitting here thinking, I understand you can do hydro to produce electricity. I totally get that. And there's no carbon emission from any of that and all. I get that. But I'm sitting here thinking, you've got to have a way to heat everything. There just is not no, in my opinion, there's just no way to create enough electricity to literally power the world and, or the United States, let me at least say that, and be able to do it economically without people having to pay through the nose. And then again, I can see where that would be the main objective, is to make us so deep in debt to the system that no matter what they said we had to do, we would have to do it. And I just told Wanda, I said, I'm not one that complies. I'm sorry, I've never have been. Now, there's been a point in my life where I had to do what I was told to do, but once I was not there, and I've been on my own, and I'm not tied under those regulations anymore or anything, I just don't comply, because I know what that's like, not having a choice. Because when you don't have choices, life just would be really bad. And that's the bad thing about socialism. It's the bad thing about communism. These type things, people look at what they call the benefits of this stuff, like social medicine, everybody gets to go to a doctor, it don't cost you anything and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, it costs you. You're paying with your freedom. And then you have to take the doctor they choose for you. You don't actually get to choose your own doctor. And I mean, there's lots of things that goes into this. And I'm sitting back looking at what's going on in the world. I mean, people's panicking right now because of this money thing. They're like, I get tons of messages. Danny, what do I do with my money? Don't ask me. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking the same thing. I'm like, what am I going to do with I don't have much money, but what little I have, what am I going to do with it? And Wanda and I, we're just like freaking out a little bit there. I told her, I said, we have to go back to the Bible. The Bible teaches us that there's going to come a point in history where people's going to throw gold and silver into the streets, and they're going to curse it because it will not fill their bellies. So let's do some reasoning there. Evidently, people bought gold and silver because they had it to throw in the streets. But it said they did that because it was worthless to them. In other words, it would not fill their bellies. So when something says it won't fill your bellies, you would think with gold and silver, if there was anything to buy, you could buy it and you wouldn't have to throw it in the streets. So that tells me massive food shortages. There's no food to be bought, or gold and silver would buy food. So I told her, I said, so there's no need investing in gold. There's no need investing in silver and all that kind of stuff, because at some point, it's just going to be worthless. It'll be thrown into the streets. So I'm like, we've just got to invest in the things that will keep us alive, like food, anything to longevity of food, and water. Wells, putting down a well. We may have to put one down over at the off-grid cabin. We have two over here. But I can use a well bucket in one of them. But I might put down another one over at the cabin so that we can actually get hand pump water out of it if we have to, or drop a well bucket in, whatever we need to do. I may have to do that. Food system, I told her, I said, we got to be able to provide ourselves with some kind of food to eat. So we bought hand tools. I mean, we've bought just about everything we think we can buy that we might need to be able to produce food. We have seeds. I mean, fertilizer is the only thing that we came up with. But if we do the Jadam method, we might be able to get by with some of it. Now, we do have cows, which you could just let roam wild and eat. We don't really have to feed them. I just feed them because they're my babies, and I just don't want to see them. I want to keep them calm and happy with me and everything. But if I don't have to feed them if I don't want to. But we have thought about reinvesting in rabbits, because we can take a lot of the weeds and stuff we take out of the gardens and stuff. The rabbits could eat on them, and then the rabbit manure could be used for our fertilizer. I mean, we're actually trying to just come up with a plan. And then we have people that's saying, on another note, we have people that's saying, I'm sitting here watching, I got a squirrel right here at my window. I mean, he's going to have to go because I got peaches right out there coming on the tree. He's definitely going to have to go. But we've got people saying, you know, we don't know what's going to happen in the Ukraine because Putin's losing the war over there, and the Ukrainians Zelensky's actually pushing forward. Let me tell you guys something. Putin is not going to lose the Ukraine. Okay, let's just go ahead and get that in our head. He's not going to lose the Ukraine. Now, I've had some scenarios thrown out to me by some very influential people that actually, as a matter of fact, one person I had a conversation with the other day helped write a lot of UN stuff. And I was talking with them, and we were just creating scenarios. And they actually looked at me and said, you know, would it be interesting if all of a sudden Zelensky was able to take back the Ukraine and then be the leader of Ukraine and Russia and all that area in there? I'm like, that would be weird. They go, oh, no, let's think about it like this. Putin's a very hated man in the world right now. Suppose he was taken out. Because they said, you see, Zelensky's being made to look like a hero. He stayed behind, you know, he's fighting for his country. He's becoming a great diplomat. He's doing diplomacy everywhere with France, and he's asked to speak to Russia. In other words, he's being made to look like the real good guy. And Putin's being made to look like the real bad guy. So what if Putin goes off the scene and this guy ends up stepping in and becoming the new? He would have everybody would love him. NATO loves him. I mean, everybody would love him. Now, see, well, that's an interesting scenario to kick around. Very interesting. But here comes a second squirrel. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to thin him out. But, you know, I was sitting here thinking, Putin's not going to lose the Ukraine. Everybody goes, yeah, but he's pulling his troops back. He's getting out of there. He's getting out of Kiev and all this kind of stuff. Let me tell you how I'm going to lay a strategy out for you. When you see something like this happening, men like Putin don't back away without a reason. Now, more than likely, what's fixing to happen, Putin doesn't want to lose a bunch more of his soldiers, because you see they're uncovering mass graves over there everywhere of civilians. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of civilians just in graves everywhere, piled up in piles and stuff. That shows you the ruthlessness of this man. And with his men retreating back out of Kiev and all these other places like this, rest assured, more than likely, he's fixing to come in and either nuke that place and where none of his soldiers will be there, and he'll go in and annihilate it, and then go right back in behind it and take it. Or he'll do a dirty bomb, or he might do a thermobaric type bomb. More than likely, I would think it might be some kind of thermobaric type bomb, or some kind of phosphorus issue, you know, where you just heat. I mean, literally, the heat just melts everything, just gets rid of everything. But he doesn't want his men in there. So, I mean, to me, that's what would be taking place, is he's actually pulling his men back because he's fixing to do something serious. And if it happens, guys, you got to understand, Ukraine is not the end goal here. Ukraine is a stepping stone to what he's after. So I don't look at him backing down. And everybody goes, yeah, but it's messing up the world's ability to have any kind of fertilizer. It's messing up the world's ability to have any grain and all that kind of stuff. And I totally understand that. It's part of the plan. If you couldn't kill enough people in the world through this, what other better way than to starve them to death? You know, I mean, literally. You take the fertilizer away from people, then people, the huge farmers, let's just put it this way, the huge farmers that depend on the anhydrous ammonia and all these types of things that they, you know, where most of our nitrogen comes from that part of the world, when they can't get that, these giant farms cease to exist, and then they have to sell their farms, and then, you know, the Gateses and the different other people, I'm not even going to call the other names because half of you wouldn't know them if I did call them. Just the Gates is the one that you recognize right off the bat. But they're going to step in here and buy all this land up. And, or China may step in and buy some of it up. They bought up a lot of our farmland. So when this kind of stuff happens, I mean, you have to understand that there's an agenda behind it all. Biden talking about literally paying farmers not to plant their land while farmers are begging them to let them to be able to plant more of their land. They put it in CRP programs, and they want to be able to take it out of these CRP programs and be able to use it, and the government says no. I mean, I'm like, if the government was really interested in the survival of the country and the people, I would be saying, dudes, plant as much as you can plant. We're going to need it. But no, that's not what they want. They want to starve the people out, which means that this book in Revelations, I mean, this book in the Bible that I was talking about, that has this in it where it says they cast the gold and the silver into the streets, and they cursed it because it didn't fill their bellies. What that tells me is there's going to be a shortage of food. Even over in the book of Revelation, when it says a day's wages for a loaf of bread. In other words, it's going to take all you can earn in a day to be able to buy enough food to feed one person. Now, when that happens, it doesn't say that there's not any food. It says that what food is available is going to be so expensive, it's going to take all the finances you can earn in a day to be able to buy enough to survive for that day. And just think about families who have large families, where there's several people in a family. What are you going to do? If you don't have any property, and you don't have a means or a way to grow your food, you know how we used to look at the country of Africa when we saw villages of people with little kids running around with pot bellies and little bubble bellies on them and skin and bones, and you remember that? Ethiopia, all those places. That, my friend, is what we're fixing to start seeing. If they have their way and this all comes to fruition, that is their plan. Because just like my cattle, we're like cows. We're being put into a corral right now, or into one large pasture. Let's just say that. I feed my cows every day. Every cow I have gets a quart of grain, or a mixture of grain. It's not just grain, it's a mixture of different things. He gets 1 quart a day. Every morning, them cows is at my barn waiting for me to put that 1 quart for them to eat. People are no different. When you get people hungry or you get them hooked on something, they will be there. If you give them just enough food to get them through to the next day, wherever they get their food at, they'll be standing right there. They'll be waiting. Just like my cows. Every morning, they're underneath that barn, standing at them feed troughs, waiting to be fed. Now, that's not the bulk of their diet. They eat grass all day long. And weeds and bushes and trees, because they're dexterous. They'll eat anything. But in the mornings, they're at that barn. And you will be no different. You may have enough to eat around on your place to make it through the day. But if you're rationed out a certain amount of stuff in the first thing in the mornings, you'll be wherever that ration is, or you know you won't get any. Especially if you have big families. So I suggest now that we begin to make preparations like we've never made before. People out there everywhere is scaring the devil out of everybody. Food shortages, food shortages, oh, there's food shortages. I had to go to Walmart and pick up a computer today. Worst thing in the world I ever wanted to have to do in my life. But we had to have one, and we had to have it fast. So we went and we picked up one. While I was in there, I made a point to look. That store is stocked to the hilt with everything. Most of it junk. I mean, about 99% of it's junk, and what ain't junk has been ruined with radiation. There's tons of clothes, tons of toys, tons of, I mean, just, you name it. They were just piles of everything except gardening stuff. The gardening stuff took up just a portion of one aisle. And you would think, with what's coming, that there would be way, 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 way more of the gardening stuff in there than they would be anything else. But no, toys take up like 10 aisles. All the little kitchen and electrical gadgets and all this kind of stuff, it takes up aisle on top of aisle. TVs, oh my word. The whole back of the store, across the whole store, just about TVs. You know, I'm sitting here, I'm like, this is so weird to see this, you know. And that's the way it is. People's got their heads in the sand. If people would quit buying this junk and only buy what they needed to survive, and they went and started buying gardening stuff and fertilizers and quit spending their money on junk, I think that we might start seeing a turnaround. But no, most people still gonna go buy the junk. Wanda and I sat and looked, and I told her, I said, look at everything around you here. It's all junk. There's nothing here of any lasting quality. I walked over in the kitchen section and looked. They had a place about 2.5, 3 feet long that they had cast iron. That was it. And I was just like, you would think there'd be a huge section for cast iron. Nope. A little small 2 or 3 foot. It wasn't very big. Maybe it wasn't no more than 4 foot, but it was a little small section there with some griddles and some few little skillets and stuff on it. No lids or anything like that. And I just shook my head. I was like, look at all this cheap aluminum made junk for kitchens. Plastic handles, all that kind of stuff. Just junk. Every bit of it junk. And I was sitting around and looked at all the stuff. Plastic here, plastic there. The clothes were just like, we looked at the clothes as we walked in. Wanda's kind of sparked. She said, could you see me wearing this? I'm like, no. No. I said, that looks like a sheet. Somebody folded all the corners of it up and cut the arms and the neck out of it. I said, no. I said, what do they call it? She says, I think they call it a moo-moo or something like that. And I told her, I said, no, we ain't wearing that junk. No, that ain't happening. And then right beside it was these pair of little skimpy shorts. I mean, the things wouldn't even cover the cheeks of your butt hardly. She says, well, look at this. I was like, that's a definite no, you know. I said, is there not anything? I mean, this is just junk. It's all junk. And as we walked down through, I looked at the medicine part of it. I looked at it, was like aisles of just medicines and vitamins and all. The vitamins are just junk. I mean, I'm friends with a guy who run a porta potty business, and he said at our porta potty place, when we wash them things out, he said we get these big old giant mounds of vitamin tablets. He said where people use them out through their bowels. He said they think they're getting the benefit out of them. He said they're all piled up on the back of my property back there. He said he went right through them, didn't do no good, you know. Big money making scheme. And I said, yeah. I said, I get that, you know. But guys, it's everything we're looking at is not what it seems to be. You know, is things fixed to get bad? Yeah. What's the worst enemy we're going to face here shortly? The weather. The weather is going to be our worst enemy here really shortly. So guys,